It's called Top Kill, and it may be all that stands between the gushing well at the bottom of the Gulf of Mexico and an unparalleled ecological disaster. Early Wednesday morning, BP plans to pump a heavy liquid into the site of the leak to try to stop the oil flow so the well can be sealed with cement. If it doesn't work, the oil may flow for months. Frustrated federal officials are threatening to push BP out of the way, but the oil giant says no one could do a better job. I'll speak with the government's point man on all of this, the Coast Guard Commandant, Admiral Thad Allen. That's coming up. Meantime, more grim images along Louisiana's polluted coast. That's where another battle is being played out. Our Brian Todd is tracking that part of the story for us. It's not pretty at all, Brian.
Not at all, Wolf. That other front in this battle is the effort to fight off the oil as it moves toward shore. Large man-made sand barriers are now being put in place, but Louisiana's governor says he needs more of them. He needs bigger sand booms, and he's got a lot of red tape standing in his way. He's got almost 70 miles of soiled coastland and oil creeping deeper into the marshes. He's got a plan to stop it, but Louisiana's governor says he's stuck in a bureaucratic nightmare.
For over 2 weeks, we've been asking the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers to issue an emergency permit. We've answered every set of questions the same day they've asked those questions.
And still, Bobby Jindal says he's gotten no permit to dredge up large amounts of sand to build massive booms. Governor Jindal and other state officials say that for smaller sand booms, they have already gotten federal permits. So they've built sand barriers to fill in smaller gaps in places like Pelican Island and Elmer's Island there. Now, they say, they want to fill in much larger gaps in places like Barataria Bay, Timbaleer Bay, and Terrebonne Bay here, and an ambitious plan to fill in a much larger gap between the Chandeleur Islands here and Breton Sound right here. For the smaller areas, they say, those sand booms are absorbing oil. But so far, no permits have been issued for those larger operations. Contacted by CNN, the Army Corps of Engineers sent a statement saying it requested more information from the state last Friday. And we are currently evaluating that information and will proceed as quickly as possible. Other federal officials say experts have to weigh the long-term impact the sand booms would have on threatened species. State officials tell us once they get the permits, they could have those massive sand barriers in place within a few days. But the wait is excruciating.
Every day we do not fight this oil on a barrier island. Every day we are not dredging sand. It means one more day this oil has a chance to come into our ecosystem.
For oyster harvesters Floyd Lasange and Chris Hernandez, that day's already passed. As they toured their oyster beds around Grand Isle, Louisiana, their worst fears were realized.
We came here yesterday morning and checked and see they have no oil at all, and then we came back this morning and this is what you see now.
It's like peanut butter or fudge, and look, it's just globs and globs of it. And it's oil, and it's probably got the dispersements in it. It's coming in between tides and just floating in. This area, everything is dead. It's nothing could survive in this.
Lasange and Hernandez say just about 2 feet below the surface in those areas are their oyster beds, and they're covered in oil. Those two gentlemen have been out of work since the oil started leaking last month. That is what a lot of people in this area are up against, Wolf.
Where would they get all this sand, Brian, from? Because I've heard people express some fear that if you move the sand, you displace it from the shore, that's going to cause other kinds of problems.
That's been a big concern, and I ran that by a state official in charge of coastal protection today. He told me that they're going to get that sand off of shelves, underwater shelves that are far off the coast of those barrier islands. He says that that will not leave any of Louisiana's coastland vulnerable to hurricanes or anything like that. That's their plan at the moment. They're sticking with it. They're confident that they can get the sand from there and not leave anything vulnerable.
Brian, thanks very much. As they gear up for a crucial effort to plug the Gulf oil leak, the frustration level is also way up as the environmental damage grows. And joining us now from the White House, the Commandant of the U.S. Coast Guard, Admiral Thad Allen. Admiral, thanks very much for coming in. Here's the blunt question. Is Top Kill this week going to work?
We certainly hope it will. Nothing's a sure thing, and we found that out throughout this response. There are times where we've had technical problems to overcome, but we're certainly hopeful. Nobody's more hopeful than I am.
Well, what are the chances, realistically, based on all the information you've received?
BP officials tell us that given some of the uncertainties that are involved that we cannot know because of the condition of the well, they're giving it about a 60 to 70%, Wolf.
60 or 70%, that's pretty good. But here's the other question. Could this top kill, where you throw all this mud down there, could it actually exacerbate the problem and make the spillage even worse if it doesn't work?
Well, you're asking a great problem, Wolf, and it really involves, I think, something the public's been concerned about maybe I could address here, and that's the federal involvement in this whole planning effort. For the last 10 to 14 days, we've been involved in a series of intense discussions with the BP engineers involving some of the great intellectual minds in the administration, including Secretary Chu and representatives of the National Lab. And some of the things they're questioning are the assumptions by British Petroleum on the ability of the casings in the wellbore to withstand the pressures of the muds that will be inserted and the margins of errors and how they're making those assumptions. And we've been talking about those for over 10 days and basically pulling them through a metaphorical knothole. So everybody's right on top of this, Wolf.
So basically, even though there is a chance it won't work and even a chance it could make matters worse, you think the chances are greater that it will work?
We think so, Wolf. One of the things they're going to do, they're going to be monitoring the pressure of the mud going down in the well, and there's a certain threshold pressure they won't go beyond, and if they're not successful, they'll terminate it, and they'll do that rather than risk the integrity of the well.
The governor of Louisiana, Bobby Jindal, and I know you've been in contact with him, he said this on Sunday. He wants action. I want to play this little clip and get your reaction.
We've got two options. We can either fight this battle, we can fight this oil on the barrier islands 15 to 20 miles off of our coast, or we can face it in thousands of miles of fragmented wetlands. Every day we're not given approval on this emergency permit to create more of these sand dunes. There's another day where that choice is made for us as more and more miles of our shore are hit by oil.
He wants these sand dunes, these so-called barrier islands, he wants them built right now. Why not?
Well, first of all, let me agree with the governor on his first proposition. We want to deal with this as far offshore as possible. The last place to deal with this is in the marshes and along the beaches of Louisiana. The issue with the barrier islands or the berm are being reviewed right now by the Corps of Engineers, and we are working with them in parallel because we don't want to add any more time to this decision process than is necessary. But some of the construction times go into 6-9 months, potentially a year, and we have to look at the issue of the efficacy of doing this right now as part of the spill response. Nobody disagrees with Governor Jindal about the effects of this oil, and nobody cares more about barrier islands in Louisiana, in Washington, than I do. The question is that the right response as part of the overall plans that we have right now? And we're looking at it right now, and there'll be a decision made.
You have repeatedly said that you're confident that BP is trying to do its best, and you think they're trying to do the right thing. We hear a different tone from the Interior Secretary, Ken Salazar. I'm going to play this little clip of what he says, and I want you to explain if the two of you are on the same page as far as BP is concerned. Listen to this.
I want to make it very clear. Under the law, BP is the responsible party. BP is charged with capping their leaking oil well and paying for the response and for the recovery without limitation. They will be held accountable. We will keep our boot on their neck until the job gets done.
Are the two of you on the same page?
Oh, we are, Wolf. Secretary Salazar is a great leader, and he's a great friend and mentor of mine, and I think that metaphorical term is all means of pressure applied to BP to make sure we have a successful outcome here. We're on the same page.
You have confidence in BP?
We have looked at every step and every line of operations they're carrying out right now. I've consulted with CEOs of other petroleum companies. We have brought scientists in from around the country. The range of options they are pursuing in the sequence is consistent with industry practices and will be supported by other executives. And we've asked very tough questions on pressure thresholds and so forth. This is our best shot, and we should take it.
And finally, you have the legal authority, if the right emergency declarations are made, to basically take charge of this entire operation and remove BP or actually force BP to do what you want them to do. How close are you to that kind of a decision?
Not close, Wolf. BP owns the means of production and the means of solution at the seafloor on this. And while you could say that there's a legal argument to make that we could do that, it would not be my recommendation we do that at this time.
Admiral Thad Allen, good luck, Admiral. We're counting on you.
Thank you, Wolf.
We have much more ahead on the oil disaster. A former special agent in charge of the Environmental Protection Agency's criminal investigation says BP has a history of putting profit before security and accuses the government of covering up these problems for years. Stand by for that.